You've probably heard it everywhere, right? Agentic workflows, agentic capabilities, AI agents. It's the new big buzzword in AI. But what does it actually mean? Seriously, most of the explanations I've seen are either super technical, like you need a PhD to get it, or they're just really vague.
So let's cut through all that noise. What are AI agents really? That's the question we're going to answer today. And don't worry, we're skipping the jargon. This is for you, me, for anyone who uses AI tools and just wants to get what's coming next in plain English. Sound good? Okay, let's do this.
To make this super clear, we're going to break it down into a simple, 3-level learning path. We'll start with something you're probably already familiar with, then we'll build on that with what are called AI workflows, and then we'll take that final step up to AI agents. It's like building blocks. By the end, I promise, it'll all click into place.
All right, first up, level 1. This is the foundation for everything we're talking about today, large language models. And trust me, you already know this stuff, even if you don't call it by its technical name.
So, a large language model, or LLM for short, that's the magic, the brain, behind the chatbots we all know and use. You know, ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, all of them. What they're really, really good at is a simple idea. They understand what you type, and then they generate or edit text in response. That's their core job.
And the way it works is super simple, right? You provide an input, we call that a prompt. The LLM does its thing and spits out an output. That's the response. It's a back and forth conversation. You talk, it talks, that's it. Pretty straightforward.
Okay, but here's where we run into a problem. What happens if you ask ChatGPT something like, hey, what's on my calendar for this afternoon? We all know the answer, right? It's going to say something like, I can't access your personal information. And why is that? It's because it has no idea what's in your Google Calendar. It only knows about the giant pile of data it was trained on, which definitely doesn't include your schedule.
And that little example perfectly highlights the two big limitations of a basic LLM. Number one, its knowledge is stuck in the past. It can't see real-time info or your private data. And number two, it's totally passive. It literally just sits there waiting for you to tell it what to do next. It won't do anything on its own. Remember those two things, limited knowledge and passive, because they're super important for what comes next.
Okay, so how do we get around those limitations? Well, that brings us to level 2. We can start giving the LLM a set of rules, kind of like a to-do list. And this is where we get into something called AI workflows.
Think of an AI workflow as a recipe. You're the chef, and you're telling the LLM the exact steps to follow. You're giving it a predefined path that says, hey, before you give me an answer, I want you to go look something up in this other tool. This is exactly how we can connect an LLM to, say, your calendar, or a weather app, or even a database of your company's private documents.
Now, you might have heard a really scary-sounding technical term floating around, Retrieval Augmented Generation. I know, it's a mouthful. People just call it RAG. It sounds super complex, but I promise you, it's not.
All RAG means, in simple terms, is telling the AI to go look this up somewhere else before it answers you. That's it. It's just one specific type of AI workflow. So when you hear RAG, just think looking things up. It's one tool in the workflow toolbox, not the whole thing.
Let's make this real with an example. Imagine you build a workflow. Step 1, it automatically pulls links to news articles and drops them in a Google Sheet. Step 2, it sends those links over to Perplexity to get a quick summary of each one. Step 3, it takes those summaries and hands them to Claude to draft a few social media posts. And the best part? You can schedule the whole thing to run by itself every single morning. That's a workflow.
But, and this is the most important part of this whole section, no matter how fancy or complicated that chain of events is, there's one key fact. A human is the one making the decisions. You designed the path. You told it which tools to use and in what order. You are the architect of the workflow. The AI is just following your blueprint.
And that idea of the human as the architect, well, that's what brings us to level 3. This is the big leap, the game changer. We're moving beyond just following rules to something way, way more powerful. This is where we finally get to what makes an AI an agent.
Okay, so if a workflow is just an AI following our instructions, what's the one huge, fundamental change that flips it from a simple workflow into a true AI agent? What's the secret ingredient?
Okay, listen closely, because this is the single most important idea in this entire explainer. The one massive change is when the LLM replaces the human as the decision maker. Let me say that again. The AI is now the one making the decisions. To go back to our analogy,
The AI stops just following the recipe, and it starts writing the recipe itself.
And what does that mean? It means an agent can do two things a workflow can't. First, it can reason. It can actually think, create a strategy, and plan the best way to get something done. And second, it can act. It can then go out and use tools, search the web, open your files, connect to an app to actually carry out that plan.
And this powerful 1-2 punch of reasoning and then acting, that's what a lot of researchers call the REACT framework. Get it? Reason plus act equals react. It's a simple name, but the idea behind it is huge. An agent doesn't just follow a path you give it, it finds the path all by itself.
But wait, there's one more superpower we have to talk about: iteration. This is a big one. An agent can look at the work it's done, critique itself, and then try to improve it, all on its own. So if you tell it to write a funny social media post and the first draft is kind of lame, it can recognize that and say, nope, that's not funny enough, and then try again. And it will keep trying, refining its own work until it hits the goal you gave it, without you needing to step in at all.
Okay, let's pull all of this together. We went from basic chatbots all the way to these autonomous agents. It's a lot, I know. So let's do a quick side-by-side recap to make sure it's all locked in.
This chart really lays it all out. On level 1, the LLM, who's the decision maker? The human. And its main trait? It's passive. It just waits. Level 2, the AI workflow. Who's in charge? Still the human. The AI is just following our pre-made path. But then you get to level 3, the AI agent. And who's the decision maker now? The LLM itself. And that's what gives it the power to reason, to act, and to iterate all by itself.
And this leads us to the biggest mindset shift of all. With an agent, you don't give it a detailed step-by-step prompt. You give it a goal. You don't say, first, search for flights to Tokyo, then search for hotels. No. You just say, plan my trip to Tokyo. Or research my top 3 competitors and write me a report. You give it the destination, and the agent figures out the entire journey to get there.
So that leaves us with a pretty huge question to think about, right? If AI is no longer just a passive tool that follows our commands, but is becoming an autonomous partner that can reason and act on its own to achieve complex goals, what does that unlock? What becomes possible now that wasn't possible before? That's the future we're stepping into.